Man, we have people clamoring. There he is, the beautiful backyard. Thank God there's sun. Phil Bennett, longtime college football.
Right now, Smokey.
Oh, you're underneath the cover, huh?
Yes.
Man, I tell you what, it's been unbelievable, the tragedy and all of what happened last week. But it's like every morning at 5:00, I hear thunderstorms that wake me up. It's like we're in Hawaii.
Every day we've had them at this time in the evening, and extensive rain. For 2 hours. I will tell you this: my water bill, I'm not paying much this month. We're getting plenty of water.
Hey, I had a question for you, and somebody had asked me this, and I hope I didn't ask you the last time. I don't think I did. What was your recruitment like out of high school? Can you kind of take us back? I don't think I've asked you that before.
I just did a podcast for a guy out of Penn State, it was like a month ago, and he just put it out, and I've been getting all these texts and stuff, and I told the story. When I came out, David, it was the first year of 30 scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
They had been signing all these, 6 classes of 80 and all these things. And this was the first year. And, being from the Arklatex, we were sort of a tri-state. I always thought I was going to go to Arkansas. My brother Jim, best friend, was Ronnie Hammers, who was an All-American guard at Arkansas. We used to go to the games. We went to Sugar Bowl when they played Ole Miss, when they played Georgia. I was a big Arkansas fan. Coach Broyles spoke at our banquet. And then I started getting more offers. I got offered by Arkansas, LSU, Tennessee, SMU, Texas, A&M. And, of course, you remember that's the year that Earl came out. And in our conference, in Marshall, Longview, Tyler, Texarkana, Lufkin, we had 5 guys. Kilgore was in that area too. We had 5 guys that were highly recruited. And I ended up visiting Texas and thought I might want to go there. And Emory Blard just sort of sold me. He said they had just had a real good recruiting class with Bubba Bean, Pat Thomas, Lester Hayes was in my class.
Wow.
And then they had started, recruiting the African-American players. And he said, we're going to turn this program in. The school was changing. The girls were coming. And I don't know what it was.
I do.
When it all came down to it, Ken Dabbs, who ended up being a lifelong friend of mine.
That's right.
Ken was a guy that just I loved him. Was pivotal in my career. Helped me. Of course, I didn't go to Texas, and he always told me, he goes, you put me in a bind. You left Coach Royals at the Gables restaurant, and you didn't show up. The truth is, he forgot. I did show up, but Coach Royal got so mad when I told him I was going to A&M. He left so fast. He left Ken. So.
Yeah, Ken Dabbs a great. He is a major part. Man, I think we did touch on it because he's the one that had a huge influence on the recruitment of Earl Campbell too.
Right, and he, Corky Nelson, who we all love, and Corky used to tell me, he said, I thought Earl was definitely going to Oklahoma. And he said, Ken just coming in, and he just a wonderful man, just a wonderful man. One of the things, I think I told you this, but the Arkansas staff, Richard Williamson was recruiting me. Jimmy Johnson was the defensive coordinator. Merv Johnson was the assistant head coach. Harold Horton, they just had a who's who of guys up there. Bill Lewis, who ended up being a longtime head coach, was a secondary coach. And, back then the Southwest Conference was the bomb. That's where you wanted to stay.
What do you think? It's media days, it's talking season, obviously, Phil, but what do you think is are there gaps between the conferences that you think are as big as the conferences like to say, or do you think that it's a lot smaller than people think?
we were talking about it with some other coaches that are a couple of Hall of Fame coaches, and they think coming into this year it will be about as balanced. I mean, in every league, and I mean from the SEC, the Big Ten, the ACC, and the Big 12. And the reason they think that is just portal and they really believe, and I believe this also, is that evaluation is going to be so crucial. I mean, everything is about the here and the now. There's no building, hey, we've got a good program for 3 years. No, it's here and now. You better deal with the here and now, and whoever can get those guys at the highest level the quickest is going to win.
Coach, everybody's always in this sport looking for that advantage, and more high profile, like the Connor Stallion story a couple years ago, and then more surface level things that we don't ever really hear about. It seems like every time, though, that the same group asks for rules, they're given rules, and they don't want to play by the rules, and they don't like the rules. Do you think, though, that everybody for the betterment of the sport can actually do their best to try and play by the rules, or is it just in the blood of the sport that somebody's going to try to bend it as far as possible?
I know you've done this for a while, but you're still young to me. There used to be a saying, if you weren't cheating, you weren't trying.
I know.
And I think that, and you know, this is my philosophy. I never, and I can say this with a straight face, an honest heart, I never compromise my integrity. And I would never want to put somebody else in a position that I would compromise theirs. I've seen people, I've watched it, I've heard it over. I mean, just out and out cheat, and I think in the end it catches up with you. And I think what you're saying now, everybody said, "Hey, everything's even." No, it's not. It will never be even. There are going to be people that will spend more time trying to cheat instead of finding a way to do it right. It's just unfortunately, it's the nature of the business. It's the competition. It's whatever you want to call it. But I think that's happening now. I think you can see it. You got people, talking about, hey, my quarterback's getting recruited off. He's not in the portal and he's still getting recruited. It's going to keep happening.
Phil, did you ever confront another coach who was recruiting against you if you knew that perhaps they had given the bag?
Absolutely. I have a story I can tell you in private that happened in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, with a former head coach. He wasn't a head coach then, but it was fisticuffs.
Oh, really?
Yes. 1 o'clock at night, caught him, trailed him. Hell, I was like an unmarked car.
Wow. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Our tea time tomorrow morning, 7:30. Wow.
I got to tell you something else. Another one in Florida, I let the air out of his coach. To this day, I've never told him. I let the air out of his Lincoln Continental because I knew he was going back to see this kid. And we were staying at the Palm Beach Hilton. And I let he woke up the next morning, and I've heard him tell the story. He goes, I had 4 damn flat tires.
No. Oh, my God.
And he's a good guy. He wasn't the cheater. The head coach was. But the head coach was in there that night, and I jumped the fence. It was in Pahokee, Florida. I jumped the fence and listened to them talk how they were going to pay this kid. How about that?
Hey,
yeah.
Let me tell you, Phil, I used to play against Pahokee.
Where is it, Paul?
It's in the middle of Florida.
It's in the muck. It's in the muck.
It's in the muck.
It's where everybody, if you ran 4.5 down there, you were slow.
Yeah.
I mean, that if you could catch a rabbit, then you probably start on the Pahokee football team.
Oh,
but, I mean, it was there was a lot of good players out of there.
Oh, yeah. Anquan Bolden is from Pahokee, Florida.
Is he really?
Yeah, Anquan Bolden's from
Well, it's a hell of a place
Pahokee.
then.
Oh, no.
Well, Ricky Jackson is from there, who played at Pitt. There's a lot, there's a lot of great players came out of Pahokee.
I can tell you, my freshman year in high school, I wasn't on the varsity team, but they came in and we beat them in the regular season. We wound up going to state that year and losing to Lake Butler, Union County, which is also just full of badass football players.
Right.
But I remember thinking like, oh, I really hope I never have to play them. Like they were the scariest dudes I'd ever seen. Like I remember like sitting inside the locker room and watching them get off the bus. I was like, oh God, I'm happy to be 14 right now. That's all. And not playing this game.
Phil, did you watch their coach? He coached with a paddle.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I remember. Yeah.
Oh,
I remember him.
I got to meet. Oh, I hope he's around still. When you went, no matter all the places you went, were you usually assigned? You mentioned recruiting in Florida, but were you normally assigned to Texas because that's your bread and butter? Or
yes, it was. But this was I was the defensive coordinator at LSU, and actually, it wasn't a high school kid. It was two junior college kids.
Okay.
Out of who Jim Gush was coaching at Garden City, and they were both from Pahokee. and it was a battle royal. Intertwined with people that today that we still laugh, that I truly love. Big time coaches, big time coordinators. I mean, but it was just, it was. As I told somebody, I can't tell the truth till a few more people die and I write my book.
Got a question from in the chat. What will it take for Houston with Willie Fritz to get going? They're in a nice little spot right now with recruiting. They've got that highly level 5-star quarterback committed if they can keep him, which I hope they do. What will it take for Willie Fritz? He's never had to get on a flight since he got there to recruit around that area.
I think number one, I like his staff. I think that I've talked the young coordinator that he hired from Florida, Austin, is a really good coach. Of course, Sean Bell's there. I just think Willie does a nice job of managing his staff. I think they're evaluating players well, and I keep saying that. I mean, I can't emphasize enough. Everybody talks about, well, Texas Tech's going to do this. Texas, let's see how they bring them together, and did they evaluate them well? I think they're doing that at U of H, and I don't think Willie is. He's not a guy. Now, don't get me wrong. He wants to win, and he wants to win fast. But I don't think he's going to sell his soul to do it the wrong way.
You brought up Texas Tech there, and I can't remember if I asked you about this the last time we had you on, but just what in your circles of talking to coaches, both current and ex, I mean, just what's kind of the chatter about what Joey and company have done out there and the buzz that's built and now the expectations that they're leaning into. They're not running from them. I mean, they've created them in so many ways, but what are people saying from the outside and inside about all this Texas Tech publicity?
I think without question, Joey has been told, now listen, we're selling out. We expect we expect the results on the field. And somebody told me, said, well, Joey's really, embracing them. I mean, are you going to tell Cody Campbell, who's giving you multi-millions, that you can't win with what he's giving you?
Right.
I mean, hell no. I mean, now, I will tell you this. I like Joey, but you're finding, Joey is inexperienced in college football. I mean, he really is. And doesn't mean I didn't say he's a bad coach. The inexperience aspect. I always liked the way Art handled it. He goes, hey, we're getting better. And he could sell it without being, hey, I'm embracing it. And I think that Joey probably has no choice but to do that because of what they're putting into it. And I look at them as a football team. I went to their first game last year when they played Abilene Christian. And they really thought they were going to be better defensively last year, and I didn't see it. Didn't see it all year. I know they've gotten better. They've got two coordinators that have never coached on that level. I mean, and there's something to it. I mean, Woods and the young Mac, the young offensive coordinator. I'm not saying they can't, but there's not a history of them saying, "Hey, this guy has a resume." It's going to be interesting, and I think that you look at their expectations, and if you're not careful, you look at their schedule, and the first 4 games, I mean, it could slide away from you really fast. Or you could be on a roll. And I'm not saying that they won't, but I know this. This is a here and now game, and you better find a way to win early, get started, and then roll with it. I'm not sure Morton at quarterback is a guy. I think he's a good quarterback. I'm not sure he's a great quarterback. And along with that, they lost their number 1 running back. And so they've got some things to prove. And you can do a lot of talking, in front of a mic. You can do a lot of talking in to the newspapers, the print, but you got to play. And now I do like their commitment. Don't get me wrong. I like their commitment, but it's going to be interesting to see how that all folds out.
I remember recently you and I were talking about a coach who became a defensive coordinator who had been always a position coach, and he was somewhat younger, and you were worried about that, and it proved to be true. That it doesn't mean he's not going to be or wasn't smart.
I mean,
the bullets are flying.
It's crazy, and I'm a coach advocate. I say this about Joey. Joey has worked his ass off. But you look, his short time with Matt Rule, I mean, there's just things you learn, and Joey's smart. He is learning. I know he is. But you've got Mac, who's been at Texas State, and I know he's a bright young coach. Shield is a bright young coach, but being in charge and doing it at the level, that they're going to ask them to do it in this quick. And I always go back to this. You have to build this team immediately. There's not a lot of the one that can identify, find their strength, and use it. Coaching will be at a premium. And I think that, there's a saying. I've said this forever. And my brother Jerry, God bless him. By the way, David, he would have been 75 today.
Oh my goodness!
He had a saying, and it's a dang good one. He said, "You can't put stripes on a private," and you have to watch. That's why your staff is so. You've got to really be careful who you put in charge these days.
When you got on the headsets, I'm sorry, Paul. When you got on the headsets, either up in the box or on the sideline, and you were not the head coach or coordinator, do you remember a moment early on in your career when you went, "Oh my God," like like your mind was screwed up and you were like blurry-eyed from just
absolutely. I can remember Coach F.A. Dry. We are going to beat SMU. I'm at TCU, and with Eric Dickerson, Craig James, we're playing in Texas Stadium, and I actually was coaching on offense. I was coaching the tackles, tight ends. Best thing I ever did, because I worked with a guy named John Payne that was brilliant, and I made a statement. I said, we're at the goal line. I said, "Hey," I said, "the wide dump is wide open." I said, the safety's working out to number 1. The ball was like on the 4-yard line. And F.A. heard me. He goes, "Okay, wide dump, play it."
Oh, no.
Well, the safety didn't move and picked it. And after the game, we lose. I think the score was 13 to maybe to 12. Eric Dickerson made a play late, kicked the field goal, beat us. And he's in the locker room. And he didn't call my name, but he got on me and the defensive coordinator. He goes, "Got a defensive coordinator that doesn't know that Eric Dickerson wasn't hurt." and puts in a backup middle linebacker. And he said, then we got a stinking Aggie telling me to run the wide dump right to that down safety. I never said a word. I just got dressed and got my ass out of that dressing room.
Phil Bennett with us. A lot of times Mondays, we're not far away from the start of the regular season. Paul?
So because guys are coming into the spring or later, you don't have as much time with them to develop them. So how much do you have to bet on the guys that they're really that dedicated so that they learn these things on their own because you have limited time with a coach? It's got to be way harder than knowing, like, all right, look, I know this kid can run, but he needs 15 pounds of muscle. Or I know this kid is a behemoth, but he's flabby right now, you know?
Absolutely. That's what I told you earlier. Those coaching will be at the premium, the very premium. You have to put it together very fast. You've got to evaluate what can he do, how, what are his strengths, how can we use his strength, and does he fit what we're doing? And I think you look at the time, and like you said, a lot of these kids didn't go through spring, some of them. So and you're to get started, if you're going to be involved, I mean, you look at Baylor's schedule early. You're playing Auburn, you're playing SMU. You got to be ready to go. There's no time for slack there.
Yeah, their first Big 12 games, Arizona State as well, I think.
That's exactly
right.
right.
So they really got their work cut out for them. Okay, so SEC Media Days is going on. I know you have a personal relationship with Jeff Lebby, so I don't expect you to tell us any, closed door talk or anything. But I was just curious on what you kind of anticipate for Mississippi State. I mean, there are no expectations outside, at least. They're kind of, almost, I don't know if unanimously, but they're being pegged as one of the worst, if not the worst school this year in the SEC. Blake Shapen, he's still around somehow, some way. He's still around there in Starkville, but they're going to be going here in a couple of days. So what do you expect from Lebby with a year under his belt?
I talked to Art, and of course, when you're away from it, you see things, and I didn't believe they were very sound at all on defense. They never stopped the run on any game that I watched. I think they hired a guy that probably is not qualified, and I think Jeff decided to go with the same staff. I think they're going to have some issues, and when you can't get enough stops and you're running, that offense, you better have a recipe of playing together, and I think that can be an issue for them.
Phil, it's an incredible time. Anytime we can have you on the show. We've asked you about recruiting, both you personally, but also you recruiting, et cetera. You've told us the great stories about Xavier Howard and others. Who's the one that got away that still haunts you to this day?
I think, David, I mean, there's guys that you sit there and you say, God, how did we miss him?
Mm-hmm.
And one of them that I was talking about, I mean, this was a kid when I was at LSU and he was at Garden City. His name was Kevin Bowie. Played in the NFL. He went to Mississippi State.
Yep.
And Jackie Sherrill, and ended up playing the NFL. And Jackie did a great job with him. I mean, he was a guy that you sit there and you go, okay, this is the guy. But defensively, I can't. I know they're out there. I mean, we played so many, recruited so many that went on to the next level. At Baylor, the thing we fought, everybody used to tell our recruits, they don't care about defense at Baylor. They don't care. It's this, and they couldn't say that later in the year. I mean, in later years when we were good enough to beat all of them.
Yeah,
so
we always.
I can't just pick out one, and I don't want to recognize them because
right.
As I used to play games with them. When they told me, they said, "Okay, I'm going to go to OU or this," I said, hey, we're going to play a little game here. And what's that, Coach? I said, let's see who can hang up the fastest. I'd slam the phone down, never to be heard from again.
Pahokee, Florida, Kevin Bowie. I knew he spelled his name a little bit different. Bouie instead of Bowwie. Hell of a player, you're right, who went to Pahokee or was from Pahokee, Florida.
Fred Taylor went to Pahokee.
Yeah.
I mean,
Lord.
They had some dudes. Now, I'll just tell you this: had we won my senior year, we played a team called Avon Park,
right?
And they were some bad dudes too. They were kind of like right in the middle, like right there in the middle of nowhere, Florida, Avon Park. But if we had won that game, our next opponent was Pahokee, and we would have had to play Bolden. And I'm kind of glad it ended when it did in a game that was a little bit closer because Bolden
beat the snot. Pahokee is a town of 5,500.
Oh, and apparently they're all like Anquan Bolden and Fred Taylor. It's unbelievable.
I don't know if you remember this, but there was a big deal, Paul, years ago where Pahokee would always scrimmage St. Thomas Aquinas. Yeah. And, they're so much bigger. And finally, the coach from St. Thomas said, we're done with this. He said, he said, we lose too many guys.
Yeah. No, it's one thing to see
St.
like
Thomas Aquinas. That's gold stuff.
Can my guys? No, but Pahokee, like their culture is, you're not like, you might beat us, but you're gonna feel it. Yeah. Like that is absolutely how it's been. Like, of course, I haven't been back there in over 20 years, really, but even then, I hear it talked about all the time. I talk to my friends back home. I, text my buddy who's the athletic director, and I was like, "How's it going?" He's like, "When do you play damn Pahokee next week?" And I was like, "All right, well, we'll bring extra trainers.
Yep,
you're gonna need them."
I mean, that's the way it is. Smoak. I'm gonna bring one guy's name up.
Okay,
that crushed me. When we were recruiting, I was recruiting a kid in Nacogdoches named Brandon Jones. You remember Brandon?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Yes, I do.
And I not just thought he was a great player. I loved his family. His dad had died. He had little brothers, and Jim Gush and I were recruiting him. And I mean, I fell in love with the family, and I did. I felt like I could help him. And when he went to Texas, they were never very good on defense. And now he shined, ended up getting drafted by the Dolphins. And I'll never forget this. Like a year or two ago, a guy from Denver called me. A guy used to be a GA for me. He goes, "Tell me about Brandon Jones." And I said, "I love him. I think he wasn't used right." And he goes, "Well, he can't stay healthy, this and that." And he goes, Denver takes him, takes a chance on him. And I think he played lights out last year.
That's
and
awesome.
He was a great kid.
It reminds me, and I grew up, I started covering high school football in 81. TJ Turner was at Lufkin. And you brought up Nacogdoches. They had a guy named Mark Moore. Who turned out he was a hellacious defensive back, and they beat Temple in a bi-district game at Old Texas Stadium. And when you brought up Nacogdoches, that's Steve McCarty was the head coach. They had never been any good, And I could just go on forever with some of those names that I saw when I was early on in my career.
I'm gonna tell you before we break. I'm gonna tell you one quick story. We recruited a DB. I'm not gonna say his name, out of Dallas Fort Worth. And, man, we worked our ass. And we thought we had him. And at the last minute, Venables and his DB coach goes in there, and he goes to OU. And we were in that run there. We had Corey Coleman on a receiver. We had, we had speed. We had, I forgot who else. But he ended up starting the last 2 years, and he would be on the sideline. And Jim Gush and I and Casey Horney would sit there and say, "Hey, so-and-so, it's coming at you. Get ready. It's a go route." We had him so screwed up. I think in the game we beat them, scored 52 points. After the game, all their coaching staff were wanting to fight us because they thought we were messing with them.
Man, you guys had some dudes at wide receiver, but of course, a lot of different. Hey, thank you, Phil. Appreciate it as
guys.
always. Golly, that's great. Phil Bennett with us. Pretty much ready to get into that schedule where we have him on most every Monday. We could just hear him talk about stories forever.
Look,